Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. Before we get to this week's episode, an update on that live show at Toronto Comic Con. Obviously, it's not happening. The entire event was supposed to take place this weekend, and it's been canceled over coronavirus concerns. And while that's absolutely the right call, I'm sorry we won't be able to proceed with the episode, because that would have been fun. We'll reschedule as soon as possible. Meanwhile, I hope everyone's staying home and staying healthy, and I'm going to do my part to distract you right now. To that end, my guest this week is Mae Martin, a stand-up comic, podcaster, and writer for Baroness von Sketch Show, among other things, who's created and stars in her very first television series, Feel Good, which premieres on Channel 4 in the UK this Wednesday, March 18th, and drops in the rest of the world on Netflix the very next day, Thursday, March 19th. It is one of the best things I've seen in a long time. You're going to like it. We all know we're staying in for the next few weeks. Give yourself 3 hours to enjoy something really wonderful. Mae picked the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the 1975 midnight smash based on Richard O'Brien's The Rocky Horror Show, an arch-loving subversion of 50s sci-fi cliches through a queer pop lens. And befitting those cliches, the story is very simple. On their wedding night, a nice young couple, Brad and Janet, wind up at the creepy mansion of a perfectly charming mad scientist, Frank-N-Furter, whose designs for them are as seductive as they are preposterous. Also, he's building a living sex toy in his laboratory. As you do. Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon are the ingenues. Tim Curry, in the performance of his career, is the Mad Doctor, and everybody sings songs and has a really great time. Also, Meatloaf is in it. Oh, it also turns out that when you put two Canadian comedy nerds in a London conference room to record a podcast, they go all over the place. So Mae and I also somehow ended up talking about Cats, Ontario Place, and The Kids in the Hall. Enjoy the ride. This is Someone Else's Movie.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, it's maybe the first movie I remember seeing, and weirdly my dad, I say weirdly just because it's not appropriate for a 5-year-old, but when I was 5, my dad sat me down and it was this big event, because it's his favorite film, and he showed it to me, and it must have changed my life. Like, I just think it's so original and funny, and it would have been so scandalous at the time. Like,
yeah, 1975, yeah.
Yeah, and it's about a transvestite mad scientist who creates a sex slave, and it's so brilliant and funny. And so I have a personal connection to it, which is my grandmother, who's from England, she was an agent, and she was Richard O'Brien's agent, so when he was doing the stage show. And so my dad, who was 16 and this kind of hormonal teenager in London, used to go and watch the stage show, and it had blown up and become like this cult stage show. So you had imagine in the 70s, like David Bowie in the audience and Mick Jagger and my dad, and then my grandfather played the narrator in the stage show. Oh, okay. And so it's, my family loves it, and it's funny because they're you wouldn't imagine that, they're British.
I was going to say, it's the kind of show that could only come out of England because it is so, gleefully transgressive?
Yeah, gleefully transgressive is a great way to describe it. Yeah.
And non-judgmental. I noticed that the last time I saw it. It's like, it doesn't ever... even Frank-N-Furter isn't punished for what he wants. He's punished because he's manipulating other people.
Yeah.
But the desires are all okay. Like, everybody's okay with everything. A little confused, but...
Also, ahead of its time in terms of fluidity. No one ever says, oh, he's gay or whatever, and he sleeps with Brad, and then he sleeps with Janet, and he's just this omnivorous kind of personification of pure desire. He just is like a child, and that he's hungry and horny, and not like a child. That was, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's greedy.
He's greedy, and
but not malevolently, right?
No,
he's not malicious or...
Not really. He's so joyful on screen.
Yeah.
I think that performance is mind-blowing, because you imagine that character on the page, he's pretty sinister.
Yeah.
But the way Tim Curry plays it is so sexy. And I think probably for me as a kid, growing up, knowing that my dad and my mum were not only okay with all that, but revered this character as the ultimate kind of, I think that made me feel free to kind of be who I was.
Okay. And was there, I'm fascinated with the whole 5 years old thing.
Yeah.
Kelly McCormick talks about discovering Phantom of the Paradise. She picked that for this show.
Oh, wow.
And in her episode a couple of years ago, she said that it was the early 90s, and she was watching it on cable somewhere. It was on Space, but it was or no, maybe VHS tape, but it was like the thing she wasn't supposed to see. It was a secret, and she was a kid, and she discovered it that way.
Oh, so that's why it was so.
Yeah, but this is the opposite.
Yeah. So I guess I was too young to. Probably if they'd shown it to me when I was 13, I would have rebelled by saying I didn't like it,
right.
Because I was 5, and the songs are so good and catchy, I think, and lots of bright colors and wild things going on. I remember there was a sort of discussion around whether to fast forward the sex scenes, but they didn't. And it must have really, like, I remember my first sex dream was about Frankenfurter. Sorry if that's too much information.
It's fascinating.
So yeah, he really profoundly, like, I became obsessed with Tim Curry. I had pictures of him and Bette Midler. So him and Bette Midler both kind of like had this kind of exaggerated femininity and like drag queen-esque style. Like a young Bette Midler was kind of a drag queen too.
She had that swagger.
Totally swagger. And I've always been attracted to like very confident, kind of intimidating women, and quite shy men, quite like Brad. I don't know. But yeah, so I just loved it. And then in high school, there were always kids who loved it. It's just, I can't believe how it's endured, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the one. I don't know if you're probably not here, but in the States, like now that Disney owns Fox, and Canada too, there's been this slow pullback. Disney is pulling all the Fox films from circulation. So Alien, Die Hard, Home Alone, all these standards and representatives. The one film they won't pull is Rocky Horror.
Really?
And nobody has any idea why.
Oh, that's
I don't understand it. I mean, it's successful, but so are all the other ones.
That's so interesting. Yeah, and I always wonder about, I think a lot of the cast didn't talk about it for a while or rebelled against it because they didn't want to be defined by those performances. But now I think that it's been however many years, 40 years or something?
45.
Yeah.
75, yeah.
Yeah, so now I think they're all happy to say that they're proud of it, which is nice. Yeah. Susan Sarandon, I mean...
Yeah, when you look back, I mean, okay, Meatloaf's weird, but he's always been weird. But some of the other choices, Barry Bostwick, who also kind of spent the 80s being this weird, almost matinee idol. Yeah. He is...
I didn't know that. What do you mean?
Oh,
so, like...
they kept trying to put him in with, like, Megaforce.
Oh, really?
Take a look at Megaforce sometime.
Okay, I will.
You will not find a more homoeroticized depiction of straight men.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to show you a picture.
Yeah, show me.
The poster... I grew up in this era, and we can cut around this because it's going to sound weird on the podcast, but there was a movie called Megaforce, and it was maybe 1983, and it was supposed to be the next big action. It wasn't a franchise. No one thought about franchises back then, but it was a big summer action. 1982. That's the poster.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
And yeah.
Is that Barry Bostwick?
That's Barry Bostwick.
That's ridiculous.
Artist representation. But it's Barry Bostwick, and if I remember correctly, that's Persis Khambatta, whose biggest role in Western cinema was the bald lady in Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Oh my God.
And that
I know who that is, yeah.
And if you look at that is hella gay.
Yeah.
But
that's so funny, the leather or the spandex.
Shiny vinyl, all of it. And it ended with, famously, the trailer, which played constantly in theaters. The trailer ended with him staring directly into the camera and saying, "The good guys always win, even in the 80s."
What?
I know.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
It's okay.
I need to see it. And,
you really do.
I mean, that era, like. Because then, do you remember Legend? And Tim Curry played the devil in Legend, and there's just some absolutely bizarre and camp films going on.
Yeah, and it all kind of happened overtly, right? Like, it's not under the radar. These movies are going for it.
Totally, and I sometimes feel like we've gone backwards a bit, like, because a lot of the kind of quintessential male icons of the 70s were kind of androgynous, and they were wearing eyeliner, and we seem to have slipped back into quite an old-fashioned, like, extreme masculinity and extreme femininity, but I feel like it used to be more chill. Yeah,
well, and what you were saying about Curry as Frankenfurter, I think, paves the way for a lot of the fluidity, just because he brings the same thing. He purrs, right? Like
he's so powerful.
He's such an inviting, powerful presence. Like he's not threatening anyone.
No.
But he insinuates himself into every situation. He does it in Legend as well. He's this monster cloven-hoof demon horn thing, but he's kind of happy to hang out with people and torture them.
And also, in a lot of times, kind of effeminate men or effeminate gay performances or whatever aren't allowed to have that power and that sexual virility because people are so afraid of like, you know. So, but he's able to be just the king of the castle.
Yeah. Who was? Oh, as James Adomian, of course, has this thing about the coded gay villain, the Sheriff of Nottingham, Alan Rickman's performance in Robin Hood.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's a whole bit.
Or like Jafar in Aladdin, or that's so true. I mean, even in The Lion King, Scar.
Yeah, well, Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
He purrs. He does it.
He does. Yeah, that's so interesting.
But that sort of villainy. And Curry does it in Darkness as well. It's about, you know, I know that I'm going to harm you and I'm just enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Frankenfurter, I don't think he wants to hurt anybody. He just wants to get laid a lot.
Yeah, and he only...
And go home.
He's only disappointed when people spoil his fun and don't want to get involved. And then Yeah, I remember my dad telling me that he used to go and watch the stage show with Tim Curry in it, and there was a certain seat that if you sat in that seat in the audience, Tim Curry always, when he sang I'm Going Home, he would sing to whoever was sat in that seat, and he'd put his feather boa around them and flirt with whoever man or woman this was in the seat. So my dad would always try and sit in that seat to get that attention. And it just sounds like a very anarchic time as well. Like, I think he said that people were doing acid and like it was just a wild time. So I just wish I'd been there. It's kind of the golden era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up after I really sort of came of age in the 80s.
In the 80s,
and it was a different time even then.
Yeah.
Because it was all the entertainment was being produced through cocaine.
It was all coke, which is just miserable. And but also it's difficult to adapt a stage show for film. And Jim Sharman, I think, directed it, and he did.
Sharman? Jim Sharman?
Oh, Jim Sharman. Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking Jim Sharman. Yeah. Jim Sharman. I think he did an amazing job. Yeah. Have you ever seen it live with all the people shouting? I get annoyed because I'm like...
Oh, live screening of the film? No,
you're ruining the movie,
Yeah, let the movie tell me what it wants to do.
Exactly, yeah.
So that was the next question. If you missed it you were too young to see it theatrically the first time, and so was I. How did you catch up to it as you got older? Did you watch it on your own? Or?
I always watched it pretty regularly, and then in my teens I went to see one of those ones where they screen and everyone shouts stuff and throws stuff, and I remember being outraged that I couldn't hear the movie, and it was amazing to see how much people loved it, but I'm a purist. I wanted to actually enjoy the movie, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like this stick in the mud in the corner and being like, no, keep it down.
Yeah, it's it's not respectful. I mean, it is, I guess, because it's an expression of love. But I feel the same way. It's just like, let me see the movie. I don't want to see the thing that you brought to it afterwards.
Exactly.
Maybe with cats, I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's the only way to enjoy that thing.
Oh, have they started doing that?
Oh, God, yeah.
No way.
Faster than the speed of light.
That is so funny.
Within 3 weeks in, they'd announced it. Anthony Oliveira, who's based in Toronto, took over the review for 2 nights. It was literally 4 weeks after Christmas Day opening. That he booked it there for 2 nights and had his own. He threw Jellicle balls and he had drag performers come in and everyone could sing the songs.
That's a great idea.
It's the only. I've seen the film. It's the only way to enjoy it, and even then, I don't know that you could.
Yeah.
But I watched it clobber a room, like just drain the life out of the people in the theater.
Oh, I'd really enjoy that, I think. Yeah, I saw it at the Bloor Cinema in Toronto a lot.
Oh, Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
Well, you can barely hear anything anyway. I mean, they fixed it since, but I remember the sound quality there was...
Exactly.
You had to sit in the back mezzanine. It was the only way to hear.
Yeah, and then when I was 11, my mum took me to the stage show in London, and...
Oh, wow.
She got so many dirty looks from people in the audience, she said, because I was so young, but... It's not that obscene at all.
No.
It's so joyful.
Is there even, on the stage version, there's no nudity or anything, right? I mean, I guess when Rocky gets out of the tub.
It's all kind of done in silhouettes and things.
Scrims and things.
Totally. And it's just, my parents had such a healthy attitude to sex, right? They were like, if you make sex this scary thing, then, or kind of forbidden thing, then that just makes it all feel sordid. And it's such a huge part of life. But anyway... playing Frankenfurter in that was Anthony Stewart Head, who plays Giles in Buffy, and he was so sexy. He was like very amazing.
Oh, he'd be great. Yeah, I can see it.
Because he can really sing, and I waited at the stage door to meet him, and he gave me a hug, and then in my memory he got on a motorcycle. I think I've just added that.
I'll take it.
Yeah, then he zooms into the distance, but I think that I made that up. So I'd love to tell him that I saw him.
That's incredible. I would have loved to see. Do you remember who else? Was there anyone else in it?
I can't remember.
Frankenfurter would be the star pull.
Yeah, I think he was the pull.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that was good. And then actually, they made a sequel.
Shock Treatment.
Shock Treatment. My dad's in that. He plays.
No,
yeah. He has one line, and he has a shaved head, and he's in these overalls. And he sings a line in a big group song, but he has a solo line, which is a jock never hawks another jock's tool or something like that. An innuendo.
Yes, no, I know this. I knew.
Really?
I saw it twice at the Eaton Center theatrically.
You're kidding.
I was just old enough, yeah.
So I've only seen it the once, and it's so different. And
God, oh my God, that's Thank God I'm a Man. That's the song.
Really?
Which actually has the lyric, faggots are maggots.
Oh my
Thank God I'm a Man. Because it's about straight performance.
Yeah, and that, toxic masculinity, right?
I could probably do this whole song from memory. It's in there because it was one of the only tapes I had in my Walkman.
No way.
Yeah.
And so not all the original cast were in that, right? But Charles Gray, the narrator's in it.
Yeah, I don't think, and Richard O'Brien and Patricia Quinn are in it, but I don't think anybody else. Brad and Janet are played by different actors.
Yeah.
Who are?
And it's all
Jessica Harper
surreal.
from Suspiria played Janet.
Okay.
Yeah, and
cool.
Jessica Harper and Phantom of the Paradise, who has this little string of pure occult work.
Yeah.
And I forget who Brad was. And it's Cliff DeYoung. It's all in there.
Way.
It's all in there.
God, I love that you have this esoteric knowledge.
I saw it. I actually saw it theatrically twice, and it made no sense to the audience.
No,
people rebelled.
Yeah, I've read that it really flops.
Yeah,
which is such a shame.
There's a Blu-ray of it here. Arrow released it a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Okay, and so do you think I should revisit it? Is it worth it?
You know what? I'm going to get crucified for this, but I think some of the songs are better.
Really?
Yeah, because O'Brien and Quinn, or specifically O'Brien, I guess, was really he got the. Rocky Horror has a stage vibe to it, and Shock Treatment is much more melodic orchestral arrangement rock.
Yeah, like Tommy the musical or something.
Yeah, it just goes for it, and it's as big as the screen can allow, as opposed to intimate songs for a stage audience.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna rewatch it.
No, the songs are bangers. Maybe not the one about the Act Like a Man thing, but it's in. A man should wax. How's this? A man should wax a car, fix a fuse, and tend a bar. It's and it's this big kind of pumping. A man should never wait to fix a rusty gate.
Isn't that funny that
I know the whole song. It's all coming out of me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But these conversations that we're having now so much about masculinity and they were so on it.
And it's not. The movie isn't even really about that. It comes up because in the sequel, Janet is tempted away from Brad by the guy who turns out to be his evil twin brother.
Yeah.
Farley Flavors. I know all of this. I haven't thought about I bought this, but I haven't watched it.
Farley Flavors.
Farley Flavors, who's the magnate of Denton. And he has his own television channel, and that's where most of the film takes place. Brad and Janet sort of end up there because Denton is teased in Rocky Horror. It's where they're going.
Yeah.
Right? It's the home of happiness.
They left Denton one evening. Yeah.
And so Janet is torn between Brad, who is a nice, upstanding milk toast of a guy.
Yeah.
And for some reason, none of the things they endured in Rocky Horror or came through
affected them at all.
Yeah, exactly. They're still the same.
Yeah.
And Farley is the more aggressive, attractive He-Man man. And so that's where that song comes from. And then she has a song called Bitchin' in the Kitchen where she looks at all of her perfect suburban appliances and she's torn between Brad and Farley. And good God. I think it's actually, I more vividly remember this than, I suppose.
I'm hearing the enthusiasm is,
It's really good.
Okay, I'm going to watch it again.
Probably horribly flawed now.
I want to revisit a lot of those, like Tommy the Musical as well. I was watching clips of Pinball Wizard and the Acid Queen and stuff, and thinking all that stuff. Stuff where plot is really secondary to the vibe.
That's Ken Russell, right?
Yeah.
That's what you hire him for.
Yeah.
You don't get linear storytelling.
Absolutely.
You do, but it's not about that.
Was he did Jesus Christ Superstar too?
No, that was Norman Jewison.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right?
Canadian. Yes.
Good moment.
Ken Russell did Tommy and
Listomania.
Yeah. Oh, I want to rewatch The Wall as well.
The Wall, Alan Parker. There's this grand tradition of big cinematic adaptations, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Rocky Horror, which is directed by a guy who didn't really do a lot of movies. I think he directed Shock Treatment as well. But there's an intimacy to the scale of Rocky Horror because it is such a small story. It's a house, right? I mean, it's a single location.
And you know that you can go. It's in Wimbledon.
No.
Yeah, the where they filmed it, and obviously it doesn't have the kind of mad laboratory dome behind it, but it's and so you can go and I think book the Rocky Horror Picture Show experience where you dine in the dining hall where they eat Eddie and so I think I might make a pilgrimage there. I think
so you haven't been yet?
I haven't been yet. It's just an hour drive, so I should go.
Yeah, it's gotta. I mean, there are tours that. The whole immersive experience thing that would make me cringe, but I think that would be something, especially since it's not standing sets, it's an actual home.
It's a hotel,
right?
So you stay in it, and I was just remembering that because my dad used to drive me to school every morning, and so we used to see how we knew every word and every line of every song in the movie, and we would see how far we could get between my house and the school doing the entire film, the dialogue.
Nice. Yeah.
But then I remember getting in big trouble at school in grade 1 because I was singing Sweet Transvestite and teaching the lyrics to all my friends, and they were all pretty horrified, all the teachers, but it was like a harsh reality that the world outside the bubble of my very liberal family wasn't quite as liberal.
Yeah. And what was Sweet Transvestite's not, I guess the word sexual comes up a lot, but it's not a sexual song.
Well,
it's a glorious, happy.
Yeah.
It's not even an I Want song. It's a Who I Am song.
Yeah, totally. I guess it was an Anglican school, and they were just like, "What are you doing?" And I mean, even I got in trouble for singing that Jingle Bells, Batman Smells and stuff. They were pretty.
Yeah, that's a little.
Yeah.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
For a kid.
Totally.
And the whole point of children is that they don't know what they're singing half the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why get in trouble?
It's better to watch that than like violence or something,
Yeah,
because the whole message is don't dream it, be it, and be yourself, and
Yeah, I mean, it's in retrospect, it's kind of remarkable that it's not surprising that something like that would catch on.
Yeah.
I think they used it in Fame, right? The movie Fame. That's the thing that all the art students cling to. They all go to see it together.
Oh right, yeah, I forgot that that reference is in there.
Yeah, and it's just this thing where it's this beacon. Of oddness. Like, it's queerness before we knew what queer could be.
Totally. And I guess it probably even taps into, I mean, England has always had that tradition of pantomime and the dames and drag and things like that. And but even like the Dr. Scott in his wheelchair at the end has a fishnet stocking on, and then they're all liberated, and it's amazing. I wonder if Susan Sarandon has rewatched it or is comfortable talking about it. I have a sex scene in my show.
I don't know that it ever comes up.
Where I reference Susan Sarandon. Word.
But it's in tribute. It's not a mean moment.
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can talk about the show as well.
Sure.
It's I mean, I was going to say it's fluid in a similar way, but it really isn't. It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah. I guess the message might be similar deep down, but tonally, nothing's like Rocky Horror. Tonally. Yeah.
But it's I mean, one of the questions I hit on the podcast is always, is there anything of the film you've chosen that works its way into your own?
Definitely in my stand-up, I think, and in the message that I try to, like, I wrote a book for teenagers about sexuality and gender and that kind of thing, and I tried really hard to, because I think a lot of those things are so politicized right now, and those conversations are so heavy, and it's so important. Imagine if you were just 13 and you were hearing these debates on TV and how stressed out everyone is about it. You've got to remember that we're talking about sex, which is supposed to be the most fun thing, and falling in love, and it's a positive, happy thing. So I try to keep it light and write a humorous. I think I wrote about Rocky Horror in it, but so I think Rocky Horror really, because it's so joyful. Mm-hmm. There's nothing shameful about it. None of the characters actually have any kind of shame. Yeah. So in that sense, it's influenced me. And then, in Feel Good, I think those characters could learn a lot from watching Rocky Horror. I think it's a love story about two people, and I think both of them grapple with like internalized homophobia and shame. And so yeah, I wish they'd just watch Rocky Horror. That'd be good.
Well, you can write it into the second season.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's true.
Disney will even let you have it, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
It's but it is such a, it's impossible to talk about it in a negative way or to get upset about anything in it. It just, like, we're both smiling talking about these moments in the film. It's, how many movies are there like that are just pure pleasure?
I'm trying to think, like,
Galaxy Quest, maybe.
Galaxy Quest, Hocus Pocus for me.
Yeah.
I think it's so underrated. I was going to say Stand By Me, but it's so poignant and sad. There's some real heaviness in it. So yeah, just joyful like that. I mean, yeah, and also I'm not a huge musicals fan.
Okay.
I'm not one of those diehard, but I love Jesus Christ Superstar and I love Rocky Horror. And I think I definitely inherited it from my dad. He was in Jesus Christ Superstar. He played he had one line again. He always has one line.
In the film?
Yeah, no, in the stage show, and he got to sing "Good Caiaphas, the council waits for you," and so he used to sing that in the house all the time.
Just the one line.
Just the one line. Yeah. Which must be still just ringing in his head 40 years later.
Was that here in London as well?
Yeah, and he toured with it too. And I think that's how he met my mum, touring in Toronto. And then she was a waitress in a cocktail bar. Classic.
That's also a lyric.
And he was, and he was wearing an all-white suit. And he asked her he went for 3 weeks to the bar just to try to work up the courage to talk to her. And then he said, excuse me, I was wondering what fun things I could do in Toronto while I'm here. And she said, well, you could go to Ontario Place. And he said, will you go with me? So smooth. And she did.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's really lovely.
Isn't that nice? Ontario Place too. It's closed now?
Yeah. Well, Sinister's renovated and back.
Okay.
That's it. And Doug Ford is trying to sell it for parts because, of course, he is.
Of course, yeah.
It's
melt it down and sell it.
Yeah, this is one of those don't get me started moments.
Yeah.
It's just been, it's a heartbreaker. But yeah, Ontario Place, I used to go there too as a kid all the time. And you have, I'm sure it wasn't as nice as I remember.
I remember it being epic, like the log ride and...
Yeah, it was big and green, the Forum was nice.
Yeah.
I saw Carlin there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a comedy festival in '92 that I was freelancing for the Star, and they sort of threw some stuff at me.
Oh, wow.
So I got to see George Carlin at the Forum. I got to see Mort Saul.
Wow, yeah. Cool.
It wasn't there, it was somewhere else, a different venue, maybe Massey Hall. But it was just this string of performances, and the one at Ontario Place turned out to be just fascinating.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I saw George Carlin. I'm so grateful that I did. I think it must have been pretty soon before he died, but maybe it was at Massey Hall, or my mum got us tickets, and I think I was too young. I hadn't grown up with him, and I was kind of like, who's this angry guy?
Cranky old guy.
Now, of course, I revere him, but at the time I was like, I don't get it. But I saw Seinfeld too when I was tiny.
Oh, wow.
And that was amazing, yeah.
And
Kids in the Hall actually remind me of Rocky Horror and their joyfulness.
Yeah. Well, when you mentioned the English tradition of drag, the first thing I thought of was, well, Dave Foley looks pretty hot.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I saw Kids in the Hall at Massey Hall doing a reunion tour when I was 13, and so in 2000, I guess?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And they were like rock stars, and they were in drag, and they were making out, and I, being this kind of queer kid, it just like blew my mind. I became obsessed, and to see people screaming the punchlines, and
oh, so that was your first...
I'd never seen the TV show.
Oh, wow.
My mom just got me tickets, and they did all their best of in the show. But from then I went back and watched every episode, and I ended up babysitting for Mark McKinney. So it all came full circle. That was nice. And then I met Dave Foley years later doing a gig. But yeah, they're icons.
They really are. I think the only one at this point that I haven't met is... Kevin McDonald. Scott did the podcast. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Highly recommend that episode.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's his, like, the way he pitched it was, I really like cruises. I like transatlantic cruises. Can we talk about this? Like, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and
Was he hilarious? I feel like I haven't been very funny. I've been just very earnest.
It's not a comedy show.
Okay,
this is about people being people.
Okay.
No, he was roughly the same, really. I mean, he was actually so relaxed in conversation that my dog fell asleep on him, and you can hear him. You can hear Dexter snoring halfway through the episode, and I had to preface it was like, I'm not, because it sounds like I'm bored.
Yeah, like
he's giving me this long anecdote, and about halfway through you can hear.
Oh my god!
And it's just me. But it's the dog sleeping. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I was at the taping of a couple of their episodes.
No way.
Yeah, my friend Mike Derbecker had gone to see them at the Rivoli enough times that he got himself on the invite list for the first season.
Wow.
And I was his guest, and it was. I'd never seen them before.
Yeah.
And it was mind blowing.
Yeah, they were so young and brave and
good.
So good and again, like, pretty shocking for the time that Scott Thompson was a real trailblazer.
Yeah.
They were so good. I mean, are so good. All of their tours as well have been, because you kind of cringe when people reunite. You think, well, please don't. And then they've all been incredible. All their tours.
Yeah, I haven't seen them live since, which is weird.
Oh really?
I went to a couple of tapings. Sketches and the pre-tapes. They did the video pieces. They had a screening of those to get a real laugh track.
Oh, okay.
And that was fascinating to see from a production perspective.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I've never seen that.
This would have been for the second half of the first season, I guess.
Wow. And were they massive right away, or was it a slow burn?
Toronto knew. Everybody knew who they were from the performances from the Rivoli, basically.
Yeah.
And to see them do it on a stage was initially it was kind of awkward because I don't think they had the blocking down just yet.
Yeah.
And so every now and then the taping I went to, there was a lot of resetting, and I think it was just camera stuff. But you could sense a growing frustration, and then about an hour into it all clicked.
Oh, good. Okay.
And so you got to watch them transition from stage to TV.
Cool.
In this space. Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, I kind of babbled about it to Foley when I finally interviewed him like 15 years later for something else.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were just kids." It's like, yeah, but you were geniuses.
Yeah, and it's so fresh and holds up so well.
Yeah. I was at the Buddy Cole taping where they worked in the Sky Gilbert joke, which was like the longest. This is for HBO and CBC, and there's a joke about a pterodactyl barging into Buddy's club.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
And the biggest laugh in the entire sketch, and it only works in Toronto, and it only worked in 1980 whatever.
Yeah.
Is this pterodactyl flies in, knocks the drink out of my hand, made fun of Sky's new play, and left.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
This is not going to make any sense to anybody else.
Yeah.
But it was just such a it's a deep cut now.
Yeah.
But at the time, like the whole room was in it. We all got it. And then it goes out on the air, and I can only imagine what people in Nebraska thought about it.
Yeah, I know they had an American audience. I wonder if they ever reached over here in England.
I'm not so sure.
I think I'm not so sure. But then people here don't know about SCTV either.
That's weird.
Which is crazy too.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, we grew up steeped in it.
Yeah.
But just the idea that you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you have the elegance of the drag performance as opposed to drag culture, where it's by definition rougher and looser and more. I mean, the thing about Kids in the Hall and Python and all of it is that for the most part, when a character is in drag, when an actor is in drag, it's an asexual performance, right? It's just someone being a woman.
Yeah, except for Dave Foley and Scott as the sex workers, the French.
Oh God,
they're
that's
very
right. I forgot
sexy.
about them.
Yeah, and they're just smoking on the street corner.
I was thinking about Tony.
Yeah,
what he's doing.
They're very sexy, but yeah, I know what you mean. They're kind of
Yeah, it gets like a forced androgyny onto the character because you either have to be the wife or the girlfriend, rarely driving the scene, or the secretaries for the Kids in the Hall. And that's not what Rocky Horror is about.
No.
Rocky Horror is about the celebration of sexual beings.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And they cover every possible base. Yeah. Because you've got Magenta and Little Nell flirting, watching Janet and Rocky, and I think if I had to identify with one character the most, sexually, I think I'd want to be Rocky. kind of, and I'd want some Frankenfurter in my life.
Right.
Just
you
tell me
open
what
to everything.
To do. Yeah.
I think I'm probably a Brad.
Are you?
I'm square.
Right.
Like I'm not opposed to anything. I'm just like I don't know about that.
You need someone to bring you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need an instruction manual.
Right.
And perhaps some what do they call it? It's the thing in the airport and the airplanes, the lighted path.
Oh yes,
The path will illuminate, and you will in the event of an emergency, the lights will come on, and you can like, navigate your way out.
Right, you need those leading to an orifice.
But it's never uncomfortable. None of the, I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how it came out in 1975 without a lot of protesting, and it wasn't, as far as I could tell.
I don't think so. I think people didn't. I think my dad said that some people just didn't know what to make of it and were just kind of confused. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't outrage because, none of it's mean-spirited or, there's no swearing in it. I think I don't think so. It's quite tame in a way, but also quite filthy. It's hard to pin down in its tone.
And it doesn't shame the straights. Maybe that's why, right? Because Brad and Janet are allowed to be wrong-footed, but then okay with it, as opposed to fleeing. I mean, they do. In the end, they're left behind, but they don't flee. Yeah. They just get to stay where they are.
That's so true, actually. Yeah, it's not polemic.
Yeah. No, and Shock Treatment similarly is about the characters being offered choices. And the bad guy is a bad guy, but it's up to Janet to figure that out. Yeah. Yeah, you really should take another look at it.
I think I need to rewatch it, especially, I think my dad would like it if I revisited it.
These songs have not stopped playing in my head since you unlocked something.
Oh, I'm so glad.
They're really good songs.
I have a script of the stage show that belonged to my grandfather when he was playing the narrator, and so it's his original script of Rocky Horror, and he's got all his notes in the margins, and I cherish that for sure.
Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, I want to see that. I just the idea that how can I? It's like it's a relic, right? Yeah. Because it's something that I don't believe. Some part of me can't accept that Rocky Horror was built, like it was written and scripted and developed and workshopped and rehearsed. It just feels like it's always existed.
It feels like it just plopped out of the universe fully formed. Yeah, that's so true actually. Like all great things like the Beatles or Star Wars or you just can't imagine someone going through early drafts of it. And so much of that with Rocky Horror for me is Tim Curry's performance. I can't really imagine it as anyone else.
Did he originate the role?
No, he was maybe the second person, and my dad said that sometimes Richard O'Brien would play Frankenfurter, and it was a very different performance, super sinister.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, creepy.
And he's built like that. Yeah, it's not like it's nothing he can help.
No, it's his physicality is so different. Yeah.
Yeah, and Curry is so effusive and warm and
so warm. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna just.
He said he modeled his accent on the Queen. Because he says house instead of house, and
I can kind of see it.
Yeah.
That's somebody else's perversion entirely. That's going to unlock something else for someone.
If you
Sorry, not perversion, thing.
Yeah.
Perversion is judgmental.
Yeah, what is it? Like fetish.
Fetish.
Yeah. If you go on YouTube and search Tim Curry interviews from the 70s, he's just so unbelievably cool. And I'm a bit pretentious, but always smoking, but
yeah. Those were the days.
It's a shame that he was always playing these cult, like It or
Clue, right?
Yeah,
things that are
he should have been a leading man.
Mildly campy.
Totally, and if it came out now, I think maybe there'd be more roles where he could be like the leading man.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, sure. Now in 2020, you're gonna have you have not only do you have people, filmmakers and writers who are like, I want that, I can harness that. Yeah. But you have an audience that is openly ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Rocky Horror was always a midnight sensation because I think it's easier to put in a box that way. Yeah. And you don't have to directly deal with what it's saying about the audience, that like, the fact that there is a demand for this thing, you can classify it as a single, like, what do they call it, non-repeating phenomenon, where,
right, yes,
we couldn't do another one of those. Look, Shock Treatment didn't make money, you can't make this happen.
Yeah, that's so true.
You totally can.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And also I think cinephiles love Rocky Horror because there's so many references to old sci-fi movies, and there's a real love for old Hollywood in there too, like that final sequence in the the big performance. Yeah.
Yeah, the glamour of the olden days.
Yeah, it's making me want to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll watch it this afternoon. I have a show tonight.
Well, that means it's working.
Yeah. I hope. Is that what happens? People listen to these and then everybody goes and watches them?
I hope so.
I hope so, right?
I mean, generally, the plan is that if you're flipping through the stacks, effectively, the catalog of the show, you'll see either somebody you're interested in hearing or a movie that you love.
Yeah.
And so I've always, no one ever comes to the show the same way. Everybody has a different route in.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw this person was doing it, so I listened to 20 shows.
Right.
Yes!
Yeah.
Or I really loved, what was it? No, Chinatown.
What an amazing thing.
And it's gotten some really. Oh yeah, of course it was the Flamingo Kid.
I've never heard of that.
No, it's an early Matt Dillon movie with Gary Marshall's second feature. Matt Dillon, Richard Crenna.
Wow.
It's
God, I'm scrolling through, and a lot of these
This is what happens.
I need to listen to, and also a lot of these I haven't heard of, and.
Yeah.
Okay, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This is more.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because Rocky Horror is pretty mainstream.
Yeah, now it's chronological, so you're seeing
the
original choices of people. Like Chinatown, we have Benson and Moorhead picked Almost Famous.
Yes. Okay. I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's 16.
I know.
Yeah.
It was a thing that they didn't really. I mean, okay,
but you're glamorizing it.
Yeah. And 20 years ago.
I rewatched it and I'd forgotten that, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. There's some stuff from the 90s and the 2000s that instantly should have been flagged.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't. And the auteur theory allowed for a lot of these things to happen.
We've evolved so fast too that which is great. But
sure. I just recorded an episode about Paul Haggis's Crash this morning.
Oh yeah.
With Marie Clements, also from Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somehow all my podcasts are here.
Yeah.
With Canadians, and it's the movie. It's the Best Picture winner, and it was shat on for being a feel-good movie about how everyone's connected, but it actually, and she pointed out, it's saying stuff about diversity and race relations, especially in present-day America, that no one was really talking about, and now it kind of, the filmmaking has dated, but the storylines are still, there's a whole plot about a white cop harassing a black couple that he pulls over and humiliating the wife, and
that scene is so upsetting. Yeah, I want to rewatch that as well.
It's it's got some issues. The direction is very heavy-handed, but it's better. I've always kind of thought it was better than people gave it credit for.
Another movie I would have chosen is Adaptation.
It's been done.
Oh, has it? Okay,
yeah, so you can feel
good.
better.
I'll just listen to that episode. I love that movie.
I forget who picked it. But yeah, no, this is this.
I can't wait to go through them all.
Based on the week this comes out, you will either be the 5th anniversary episode or the one after. And it's just been. It
must be like a joy to do.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying about that first conversation that sparked it. You just end up in a place where people are like it always sounds weird to say it, but I have made friends doing this show. Paul Lee from Kim's, and I are Kim's Convenience, are we're actually friends now because he came over and he picked Jaws. It's my favorite movie.
Yeah, Jaws is so good.
Yeah, that was a great one. He opened the episode with showing me a tape of him watching it with his kids and kind of focusing on them during the Ben Gardner's boat scene where the head comes out.
Yeah,
and it's just the episode just goes dead silence, and you hear them go, ah!
Oh, that's great.
It's that's the dead.
That's great.
Somebody just sharing something much like the Rocky Horror situation with you.
I know. I think if I had kids, I'd probably do the same thing. As soon as they could speak, I'd be shoving them in front of Rocky Horror. It's such a positive message.
It really is. It's I'm so glad you picked it.
Yeah, thanks.
Not at all. My thanks to Mae Martin, whose excellent TV series Feel Good premieres on Channel 4 in the UK this Wednesday, March 18th, and in the rest of the world on Netflix, Thursday, March 19th. Thanks also to Sally Kent. She knows what she did. You can find Mae on Twitter at The Mae Martin, all one word, and you can find the Rocky Horror Picture Show on Blu-ray and DVD from 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. It's also available on iTunes and Google Play, and in Canada, it's streaming on Crave. You can find Shock Treatment on DVD in North America from 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment and on Blu-ray in the UK from Arrow. It's wild. Songs totally hold up. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, SEMcast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it, or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you've been enjoying us. Every little bit helps, it truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network. The Big Story's been doing a whole bunch of stuff on coronavirus, so, if you wanted to be more paranoid or more informed, that's a good place to go. Thanks for your support, and thanks for listening. Stay inside. Watch movies. See you next week.